Forbidden Love, Atlanta Episode 3, The Reckoning. There is a moment, and Atlanta knows this moment well, when the truth finally says itself out loud. Not the version you rehearsed. Not the careful, managed, controlled version you constructed in the shower at 6 in the morning when you thought nobody was listening. The real truth. The one that has been sitting in the back of your throat for 2 years, patient as Georgia heat, waiting for the exact wrong moment to arrive. That moment came last night. At a candlelit table in the old Fourth Ward, with jazz in the background and water glasses neither of them touched, Reid looked at Dominique Carter and said the thing that changed everything. I let you go because I thought I was protecting you. I know now I was only protecting myself. 6 seconds of silence followed. And then she said the harder thing. The problem, Marcus, is that I built my whole life around you being gone. Nobody moved. The candle kept burning. Atlanta kept humming outside the window, indifferent and beautiful and completely unmoved by the private earthquakes happening inside its restaurants and penthouses and darkened apartments. This is episode 3. This is where the reckoning begins. And somewhere in this city, from a number nobody recognizes, 3 words just landed on a phone screen in the dark. Ask him about Vanessa. Atlanta doesn't let secrets die, baby. It just lets them evolve. Blackheart, welcome back. Chapter 1. What happens after the truth? The moment after Marcus's confession. There is a particular quality to the silence that follows an honest thing. Not the silence of emptiness. Not the silence of a room where nothing has been said. This is the silence of a room where too much has been said, where the air itself is saturated with the weight of it, where every ambient sound, the flicker of candlelight against crystal, the low and liquid current of jazz threading through the dining room, the soft percussion of silverware at other tables, the murmur of other people's ordinary evenings. All of it recedes, becomes irrelevant, becomes something happening in another world entirely. Marcus said, I let you go because I thought I was protecting you. I know now I was only protecting myself. And now the words live in the room with them. They cannot be recalled. They cannot be softened or qualified or walked back towards something safer. They sit between the candle holder and the wine glasses and the half-eaten plates of food like a third presence at the table, and neither Marcus nor Dominique has moved. He watches her. She is looking at the candle, not at him, not at the middle distance of polite avoidance, but directly at the small and steady flame, as if she is asking it something. As if fire might be more reliable than words. Her hands are in her lap. Her shoulders are not tense. She has not performed shock, because Dominique Carter has never performed anything she did not choose to perform, and right now she is choosing nothing. She is simply sitting with the truth of it, turning it over in whatever quiet, interior room is hers alone. The jazz plays on. A woman at the bar laughs at something. The restaurant continues its indifferent, beautiful existence around 2 people who are, for this moment, completely outside of time. Then Dominique lifts her gaze from the candle. She looks at him, not with anger, not with tears threading the edges of her composure, not with the bright, brittle expression of a woman who has been hurt and wants the other person to know the dimensions of that hurt. She looks at him the way you look at a map after you have already arrived somewhere, with the particular exhaustion of a person who has finally located the thing that explains the journey. I need to walk, she says. Her voice is quiet, entirely even. He opens his mouth. He closes it. His hand moves half an inch across the tablecloth, a reflex, a reaching, and then it stops. He does not try to stop her. He does not say wait or please or let me explain, because there is nothing left to explain, and she is not running, and he understands, in this one luminous and terrible moment, the difference between holding someone and holding someone back. She reaches for her clutch. She stands. She meets his eyes once, briefly, with something that is not forgiveness and not fury, but something older and more complicated than either. And then she moves through the restaurant with the unhurried, measured grace of a woman who has decided not to let this room see her break. Marcus watches her go. He does not signal for the check. He does not reach for his phone. He sits with the candle and the jazz and the ruin and the relief of a man who has finally told the truth, and he lets it be what it is. This restraint, this one small, costly act of letting her leave without pursuit, may be the first genuinely unselfish thing Marcus has done where Dominique is concerned. Whether it is enough, whether anything can be enough, remains a question the night has not yet agreed to answer. Chapter 2. The Walk. Old Fourth Ward Streets. A warm Atlanta night. Dominique walking alone, heels in hand. The city receives her without ceremony. That is one of the things Dominique has always loved about Atlanta, the way it holds you without requiring explanation. The Old Fourth Ward in June is a particular kind of alive, warm without mercy, fragrant with jasmine and asphalt, and someone's backyard grill still glowing somewhere down the block, the smell of it mixing with exhaust and night-blooming things in a combination that belongs nowhere else on earth. She stopped at the corner and took off her heels before she had walked half a block. The sidewalk is warm through the soles of her feet. She doesn't mind. She walks. Not quickly, not with purpose in the directional sense. With purpose in the interior sense, which is to say she is moving through the city the way she moves through a difficult brief, systematically, holding each argument up to the light before she sets it down. The murals on the walls watch her pass. The painted faces of the neighborhood's history looking out from brick with patient, knowing eyes. Laughter spills from a restaurant doorway. A group of women at a long table. Someone's birthday. Champagne and noise and the uncomplicated joy of people who are not, tonight, in the middle of anything. Dominique passes them and feels no envy. Only the distant recognition that such evenings exist. She thinks about 2 years. 2 years of deliberate, architectural forgetting. She had not been passive about it. She wants to be honest with herself about that, here on this sidewalk, with no one watching. She had not simply waited for time to do its work. She had worked. She had thrown herself into the firm with a focused and consuming ambition that wore grief like a disguise so convincing even she sometimes forgot what was underneath. She had traveled. She had redecorated her apartment twice. She had dated, briefly, carefully, men who were warm and possible and who she chose. She can see now, precisely because they posed no risk of becoming necessary. She had built a life specifically designed to not require Marcus Sutton in any of its load-bearing walls. And it had worked. She wants to give herself credit for that. It had worked in the way that well-constructed things work, reliably, functionally, without drama. She had been fine. She had been more than fine. She had been the version of herself she most respected, clear-eyed, forward-facing, unencumbered. And then one dinner. One table. One candle. One sentence from a man who has spent 2 years becoming someone honest enough to say it. And the architecture is cracked. Not collapsed. She would not give it the dignity of collapse. But cracked. She can feel the hairlines of it, running through the carefully engineered load-bearing walls. And she is enough of a realist to understand that a crack, once made, does not unmake itself simply because you would prefer it to. She walks to the end of the block. She stops at the corner, a streetlight humming overhead, the old Fourth Ward spread out around her, Atlanta's familiar skyline visible in the near distance, the towers lit and indifferent and magnificent. She stands there for a moment that is not quite a decision and not quite a surrender, but something in the territory between. Then she opens her phone and calls a car. No single, clean decision came from that walk. People rarely work that way, and Dominique least of all. But something has shifted in her face. It is visible in the way she stands at the corner waiting for the car, the slight loosening around her eyes, the quality of her stillness changing from held to resting. Something has been looked at directly and survived the looking. Whether that is the beginning of something or the end of something, or whether those two things are, in this case, exactly the same, that, too, the night declines to say. Chapter 3. Vanessa makes a move. The following morning, Vanessa's sleek Buckhead office. She has a meeting with someone who knows Dominique. Vanessa Pierce has a gift that most people mistake for poise. Poise is passive, a quality of surface, a management of appearance. What Vanessa has is something more active and more formidable. The ability to be moved by something without appearing to be moved, to receive information and translate it, in real time, into action, while the face above that process remains serene and entirely unreadable. She has had this quality since she was 14 years old, and it has served her in boardrooms and courtrooms, and, on more than one occasion, in rooms far more dangerous than either. She was at the gala. She saw what she saw. She spent the night processing it, not in the way of a jealous woman, which she is not, or not only, but in the way of a strategist whose intelligence has been flagged and who does not sleep well when a variable is unaccounted for. Vanessa is, above everything else, a woman who likes to understand the perimeter of her situation. She does not panic at unknowns. She eliminates them. Her office is on the 14th floor of a building in Buckhead that costs what it costs and says what it says. Floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of view that reminds you how far you have come every single morning. A desk that was not inexpensive and does not pretend to be. She is at that desk at 8:45 when her 9 o'clock arrives, and she is already composed, already herself, already 3 moves ahead. The mutual acquaintance will not be named yet. In this room, she is simply what Vanessa needs her to be, a source. She takes the chair across from Vanessa's desk with the particular ease of someone who believes this is a social call. Vanessa has arranged it to look like one. There is good coffee. There are flowers. Vanessa asks about a vacation. She laughs at precisely the right moment. She listens with the focused warmth of a woman who finds people genuinely interesting, which she does, because finding people interesting is, among other things, strategically useful. Then, approximately 12 minutes in, she asks a question. Casual, almost offhand. The way you might ask about the weather, or a mutual friend's new apartment. Whatever happened to Dominique Carter? I think I saw her somewhere recently. She's an attorney, isn't she? At one of the firms downtown. The precision of the question matters. Not broad, not obviously probing. Just the right amount of interest for just the right duration. The source, who does not know she is a source, answers easily and completely, the way people do when they do not recognize they are being asked. Dominique Carter. Partner track. Brilliant by all accounts. Impeccable reputation. No current relationship of note. And yes, they had a mutual acquaintance in common, actually. The source says his name without being asked. Marcus Sutton. She and Marcus were together for, gosh, how long? 2 years, maybe more. Back before his company really took off. Vanessa does not change her expression. She lifts her coffee cup with one hand and nods in the pleasant, interested way of a woman receiving mildly interesting information about people she barely knows. Inside, she is filing everything. The meeting ends warmly. Vanessa walks her source to the elevator. She thanks her. She means it. She returns to her desk, closes her office door, and stands at the window for 60 seconds looking out at Buckhead in the morning light, at the city she has navigated with both hands for a decade, and she thinks. She is not trying to destroy Dominique Carter. She wants to be clear about this, clear to herself, specifically, which is the only clarity that matters. She is not operating from rage or desperation. She is operating from the cold, bracing clarity of a woman who suspects that she has been, in some fundamental way, a placeholder, and who needs to know whether the suspicion is correct before she makes any decision about what to do with that knowledge. The distinction matters enormously. A woman who acts from jealousy acts in one direction. A woman who acts from information can move in any direction the information requires. Until, of course, the two become indistinguishable. That is when things get complicated. And complication is exactly where this is headed. Chapter 4. Marcus and the Mirror. Marcus's penthouse. Early morning. He did not sleep. There is a particular exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from finally telling the truth. Marcus Sutton has been awake since the restaurant. He did not go to a bar. He did not call a friend. He did not, as he might have once, find some frantic occupation to paper over the quiet. He came home to his penthouse. All those clean, expensive surfaces, the expanse of glass that makes the Atlanta skyline look like something he ordered, and he sat in it. Just sat. In the honest dark of a life he has built with considerable skill and questionable emotional intelligence, and he let himself be exactly where he was. Which is undone. Quietly, thoroughly, irreversibly undone. He makes coffee at 4:30 in the morning because the body requires ritual when the mind cannot be trusted. The machine produces its sounds, the familiar grind and hiss of it, and he watches it with the attention of a man who has nothing else to look at and nowhere else to be. The coffee finishes. He pours it. He does not drink it. He carries it to the dining table and sets it down, and the steam rises from it in the dark kitchen, and he watches that instead. He is conducting a review. The kind that has no mercy in it, because mercy is what you offer other people, and Marcus tonight is not in the business of offering anything to himself. He is going back through the record, not the version he has been telling himself for 2 years, the version with the clean edges and the acceptable motivations, the version in which he made a hard choice for good reasons and lived with the consequences like a man. He is going back through the real record, the one that does not have clean edges. He chose distance over vulnerability. He is precise about this now. It was a choice. There was a moment. He can locate it exactly. A specific night 2 years ago. A specific phone call he did not make. When the path split, and he could see both branches clearly, and he chose the one that did not require him to be seen completely. He told himself it was protection. He told himself she was better off. He told himself the thing he was building needed his full attention, that love and ambition at that scale were incompatible, that the most loving thing he could do was give her back her freedom. He told himself a great many things that were all adjacent to the truth without being the truth. The truth was simpler and smaller and far more humiliating. He was afraid. He had looked at what she was to him, how entirely necessary she had become, how much of himself he had begun to locate in her presence, and the enormity of that need had terrified him. So he had engineered a distance that looked, from the outside, like selflessness, and felt, from the inside, like survival. And he had been living inside that story ever since. 2 years. 2 years of building. 2 years of success accumulating on success. The company expanding, the recognition arriving in waves, the world offering him every version of validation except the one that would have required him to be honest. He had taken all of it. He had built a beautiful, successful, largely hollow life and called it moving forward. He opens his laptop. Not to work. He knows this, even as he opens it. The familiar blue light of the screen is the closest thing he has to comfort, the closest approximation of purpose at 4:45 in the morning when purpose has temporarily evacuated. He reads nothing. He types nothing. He stares at the open tabs from yesterday. Emails, a market report, a calendar full of important things, and none of it is real to him. None of it touches him. After 2 minutes, he closes the laptop. He picks up his phone. Her name is in his contacts. He has never deleted it. Not because he held on a hope, he has told himself, but because deleting it would have been a statement, and statements require conviction, and conviction requires looking directly at the thing you are trying to put away. He holds the phone. He looks at her name. He does not call her. He sets the phone face down on the table. He picks up the coffee, which has gone cold. He drinks it anyway, because cold coffee in the early morning of a reckoning is what you get, and he is, for once in his life, trying to accept what he gets without renegotiating the terms. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Atlanta is beginning to lighten at its edges. The city's slow and gorgeous daily resurrection, all that steel and glass going from black to gray to gold, the towers catching the first light and holding it. He watches it. He has watched it before, many mornings, from this window, and it has always felt like his, like evidence of where he had arrived. This morning it feels like a question. Chapter 5. Celeste sees it coming. Dominique's apartment. Celeste has let herself in with the spare key she has held for 8 years. Celeste Bradshaw has known Dominique Carter since they were 22 years old and sharing a 2-bedroom apartment in Decatur with a broken dishwasher and an inexhaustible supply of cheap wine and each other's company. They have been through graduate school and heartbreak and bar exams, and the particular grief of burying parents and the particular joy of celebrating each other's victories in the way only people who were present at the beginning can, with the full understanding of what the victory cost. Celeste has a spare key. She has held it for 8 years. She does not use it casually. She uses it the way you use an emergency contact, when something is happening or is about to happen that requires a presence that does not need to be invited. She has brought groceries, eggs, which Dominique never keeps, orange juice, good bread, the kind of coffee that cannot be found in Dominique's cabinet because Dominique operates on whatever the grocery store offers and has never been precious about coffee, which has always baffled Celeste, who is precious about many things and has made peace with this about herself. She puts the groceries away. She starts the coffee. She sits cross-legged on the couch, the large, dove-gray sectional that Dominique chose during that second redecorating, the one that was definitely not about Marcus, and she waits. She is reading something on her phone when she hears the bedroom door, and she looks up. Dominique emerges. She is wearing a t-shirt and sleep shorts and her hair is wrapped, and she looks. Celeste takes this in carefully, in the way of someone conducting a rapid, private assessment, like a woman who has been in conversation with herself all night and has not yet determined the outcome. There are no visible tears. There is no swollen-faced evidence of crying. But there is a quality of interiority to her, a slightly inward cast to the eyes, the kind you get when you have been thinking very hard about something for a very long time, and the thinking has not resolved. Celeste says nothing for a full 30 seconds. She lets Dominique move through the apartment, toward the kitchen, toward the coffee that is already brewed, and she watches and she waits, because Celeste understands better than anyone that the most useful thing you can do for a person who has been inside herself all night is give her room to come out on her own terms. Then, when Dominique has a mug in both hands and has taken the first sip and exhaled the way you exhale when something warm and familiar arrives after a difficult night, Celeste says, not a question, not a challenge, simply a statement of what she already knows with the confidence of a woman who has known Dominique for 17 years. You're going to see him again, aren't you? Dominique looks at her over the rim of the mug. She does not startle. She does not protest. She says, quietly, I didn't say that. And Celeste, who has the kind of face that does not require volume to carry weight, whose expression is already saying everything, says only, you didn't have to. Stay here for a moment. In this kitchen, with these 2 women and this good coffee and this particular kind of intimacy, the kind that is not comfortable, exactly, but safe. The particular sorrow and grace of being known completely, of standing in front of someone who sees through every useful pretense, every polished defense, every piece of armor already understood for what it is. It is the greatest gift. It is the most uncomfortable truth. Both things. Always both. Celeste does not tell her not to go. This is important. She is not a woman who withholds her opinions. Dominique would not trust her if she were. But she has learned, over 17 years, the difference between counsel and control, and she respects the line between them. She picks up her own coffee. She looks at Dominique with the steady warmth of someone who has already decided that whatever Dominique decides, she will remain. She asks only one thing. Promise me, she says, setting her mug down, that you know what you're walking back into. Dominique wraps both hands around her mug. The morning light is coming through the window now, warm and slow and uncommitted. She looks at it. She does not promise. And Celeste, who knows her, who has always known her, who will still be here regardless, nods once. The smallest nod. The nod of a woman who has said the thing that needed saying and will not say it again. She picks up her coffee. She changes the subject to something entirely ordinary. This is love at its most functional and most generous. The ability to hold a person to a standard without holding it over them. If this story is living in your head rent-free right now, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and tell me, who do you think sent that text? I read every single 1 inch. Chapter 6. The call she makes instead. Dominique's home office. She closes the door. She makes a call, not to Marcus. After Celeste leaves, Dominique showers. She dresses, deliberately, the way she dresses when she is trying to locate herself. A good blazer. Earrings that mean something. The ritual of it is its own kind of intention, and Dominique has always understood the relationship between what you put on your body and what you put on your mind. She goes to her home office. She closes the door. She stands at her desk for a moment with her phone in her hand. She is making a decision. Not the decision anyone might expect. Not the one that would be easier, louder, or more immediately satisfying. A quieter one. A braver one. She calls her therapist. Dr. Anita Cole has been in practice for 22 years, specializing in high-achieving women navigating the intersection of professional excellence and emotional survival, a population Atlanta generates in considerable quantity. Dominique has been seeing her for 3 years, since the year after Marcus. Since the year she sat in her beautiful new office at the firm and realized that ambition, however genuinely pursued, does not fill every room inside a person. She found Dr. Cole through a colleague who offered the referral quietly, sideways, the way accomplished women sometimes offer each other the names of the people who help them stay whole. The call connects. The appointment is arranged for that afternoon, 45 minutes in Dr. Cole's office on Peachtree Road, the one with the good light and the chairs that are comfortable without being designed for sleeping. The one where Dominique has said things she has never said anywhere else. She texts a confirmation. She sets the phone down. The session itself stays private. There is a sanctity to therapy, a room where honesty is protected by contract and trust, where the ordinary rules of performance are suspended, where a person is allowed to be entirely unfinished. That room belongs to Dominique. The woman who closes the home office door at 9:15 in the morning before leaving for that appointment is wearing armor. Not the visible kind, not rigidity or coldness or defensive posturing, the kind that lives just under the skin. The practiced, load-bearing armor of a woman who has spent her entire professional life in rooms where showing up fully assembled was the price of being taken seriously. She carries it well. She always has. And the woman who opens her front door at 1:15 in the afternoon, returning from Peachtree Road, that woman is quieter, more solid, as if something has been located, not resolved, but located, the floor found again beneath all the feeling, which is, in the end, the most that 45 minutes of honest conversation can reliably promise, and which is, in the end, the thing that matters most. She sits at her desk. She opens her calendar. She looks at it for a long moment. The days ahead, the meetings, the reliable architecture of her working life. And she opens a new message. She types his name. She looks at it. She types and deletes and types again until what remains is precise and worded, and exactly as much as she is willing to say right now. I need more time. Don't mistake that for an answer. She sends it. She does not watch the screen for a response. She puts the phone face down. She opens a brief, and she works. This is not avoidance. This is not fear. This is a woman who has spent the morning gathering herself, and is now doing the most powerful thing she knows how to do, continuing to live her life with full presence while the unresolved thing remains unresolved. She has learned, has spent 3 years learning, in that good-lit room on Peachtree Road, that not every question requires an immediate answer, and the space between a question and its answer is not wasted time. It is where good decisions grow. Chapter 7. What Vanessa finds out. A wine bar in Midtown. Vanessa meets her contact, Jordan, 36, a publicist who knows everyone. The wine bar on Crescent Avenue is exactly the right choice for this kind of conversation. Dim enough to feel private, busy enough to feel casual, the kind of midtown establishment that attracts a certain class of well-connected professional for whom the evening glass of wine is also, always, a form of information exchange. Vanessa has chosen the corner table. She is already seated when Jordan arrives, and this, too, is a choice. Letting Jordan approach, letting Jordan feel that she is the one arriving in Vanessa's space rather than the reverse. Small things. Small things matter enormously when you are trying to understand the exact shape of the ground beneath your feet. Jordan Reeves is 36, a publicist whose client list spans entertainment and politics, and the category of Atlanta personality that is neither and both. She is sharp, well-dressed, constitutionally incapable of silence, and precisely the kind of person who knows everyone's business without understanding herself to be a source of it. This makes her invaluable for certain conversations. Vanessa has known this for years. She has been careful not to overuse it. They order wine. They talk about projects, about clients, about a mutual friend's new gallery opening in the West End. Jordan is warm and voluble and easy to be with, which is both her professional asset and, tonight, her occupational hazard. Vanessa asks her questions with the lightness of genuine curiosity. Jordan answers with the generosity of someone who enjoys being informative. And then Vanessa receives what she came for. It arrives in pieces, assembled casually over the course of 40 minutes. Dominique Carter, partner track attorney, one of the sharpest young litigators at her firm, impeccable reputation, known in certain circles, no current relationship of note, extraordinarily private about her personal life. And the piece that Jordan offers with no particular weight, because she does not know its weight, because she has no reason to imagine that the woman across from her is holding her breath behind her composed expression. There was someone, years ago. Wasn't there? A relationship Jordan knew about through a mutual. Some tech executive. Very serious, by the sound of it. 2, maybe 2.5 years. And the timing, now that Jordan thinks about it, which she does, at Vanessa's gentle encouragement, the timing of the separation. She remembers now. She remembers it being around the time of a big expansion, a funding round, a profile in one of the business publications. Around the time Marcus Sutton's company became the thing everyone was talking about. Jordan says his name. She says it easily. She has no idea she is dropping it into a conversation that will rearrange the rest of Vanessa's evening. Vanessa sets her wine glass down. It makes a small, precise sound on the table. She does not pick it up again for 30 seconds. She is looking at the middle distance, not away from Jordan, not dramatically into her own private devastation, but at nothing in particular. The way a person looks when they are rapidly assembling pieces that have just clicked into a shape they already half suspected and did not want to confirm. She pieces it together. The timeline, the career trajectory, the silence Marcus has kept about his history with precision and consistency. Not the silence of a man with nothing to say, but the silence of a man with something to protect. The way he is when she asks about before, the slight shifting of register, the answers that are technically complete and emotionally absent. She has attributed it, before tonight, to his general privacy, to the reserve that she has always found both attractive and occasionally maddening. She understands, now, that she was giving him more credit than the evidence supported. She arrived in his life, she thinks, quietly, without letting her face change, as a compensation. Possibly as a cure. Possibly as the next best approximation of something he had not permitted himself to keep. This is not a small thing to understand about yourself. About your relationship. About 2 years of your life. She thanks Jordan. She pays the check, insists on it, warmly, as she always does, and she walks to the elevator bank with Jordan, exchanges a hug and a promise to talk soon, and steps inside when the doors open. Jordan goes toward the street. The elevator doors close. Vanessa is alone in the mirrored elevator. The mirrors show her to herself from three angles, polished, assembled, the image of a woman who is entirely in control of her environment. She looks at herself the way you look at something you are checking rather than seeing. Then, quietly, to her own reflection, with the voice of a woman who has known for some time and only now allowed herself to know. Well, now I know. The elevator reaches the lobby. The doors open. She walks out into the midtown night. Knowing changes everything and solves nothing. Every person who has ever been handed a truth they were not certain they wanted knows the feeling. The strange, clarifying cold of confirmed suspicion, followed by the immediate, complicated question of what to do with it. Vanessa is not a woman who sits with unanswered questions for long. She is also not a woman who acts before she is ready. She walks to her car, sits in the driver's seat, and does not start the engine for 4 minutes. She thinks. Then she starts the car. She drives toward Buckhead. She has not yet decided anything. But she has decided that it is time to decide. Chapter 8. Dominique at work. The cracks show. Dominique's law firm. A routine afternoon. Nothing is routine. The law firm is one of the most reliable structures Dominique has. Not because it is simple. It is not. It is one of the most demanding environments she has ever inhabited, which is precisely the point, but because it is legible. It operates by rules she understands. It rewards the things she is genuinely good at: precision, preparation, the ability to hold a complex argument in her mind and turn it over with the patience of someone who knows that the answer is there, if you are willing to be thorough enough to find it. She has 3 meetings today. A client call at 2. A team check-in at 3:30. A brief review session with a senior partner at 4:15. She takes them all. She is excellent in all of them. This is not a small thing. This is, in fact, a significant thing. The ability to show up at full capacity in a professional context while the interior landscape is in a state that most people would find difficult to function alongside. She annotates 2 briefs with the same efficiency and insight that has made her one of the firm's most respected junior partners. She asks the right questions in the check-in. She makes a recommendation in the brief review session that the senior partner, a man not given to visible enthusiasm, describes as, quote, exactly the argument we needed. But between the 2 o'clock call and the 3:30 check-in, there is a 30-second pause, maybe 40, where she is sitting at her desk and the document on her screen has stopped being a document and become a window. She is looking through at something that is not in the room. Her gaze is at the glass wall of her office, which faces the city, and the city is there, alive and various and demanding nothing from her in this particular moment, and she is not seeing it. She is somewhere else entirely, inside a conversation that is still happening in some chamber of herself, still being turned over, still asking to be resolved. She blinks. She looks back at the screen. She scrolls through a document she does not, for a few seconds, recognize. Then her phone is in her hand, and she does not remember picking it up. His message is on the screen, her message to him, technically, sent this morning, and his reply, which arrived 2 hours later and which she has read already, knows she has read already, and is reading again. And then again. The words are not complicated. They are 3 sentences. She reads them 4 times before setting the phone face down. Not because she cannot parse the sentences, she can parse them with her eyes closed, but because the sentences are not actually what she is reading. She is reading for something under them. Something that language can gesture toward but cannot fully carry. Her assistant knocks on the glass door. A soft, professional knock. A question about the 4:15. Dominique composes herself in under a second. The practice speed of it deserves attention. The way the interior weather is simply tucked, in that fraction of a second, behind the face she presents to the world. She smiles. She answers the question. The assistant leaves. The window, the city, the afternoon light slanting through the glass. All of it continues its indifferent beauty. Dominique picks up her pen. She returns to the brief. She makes a note in the margin that is, objectively, correct. But today, more than yesterday, more than last week, more than any day in the past 2 years, it is costing her more than usual. The ordinary architecture of her working life is the same as it has always been. It is she who is different. It is she who is slightly too large or slightly too present for the shape she has been carefully maintaining, and the mismatch is not yet visible to anyone outside this room. It is visible only in the smallest pauses. Chapter 9. Marcus and Vanessa, the conversation they've been avoiding. Marcus's penthouse. Evening. Vanessa arrives. She has a key. She has always had a key. She lets herself in at 7:30. The penthouse is lit the way it always is in the evening. Low, warm, the kitchen island lit from above, the city visible through the glass walls like a painting that changes every hour. Marcus is on the couch when she comes in. Or rather, he is the shape of a man on a couch, present in the physical sense, somewhere quieter in every other sense. He looks up when he hears the key in the lock. He does not look surprised. He has always known, somewhere just below the surface of their relationship, that Vanessa would arrive at this moment, and that when she did he would not be fully ready, and that this was, in some fundamental way, his own doing. "Hey," she says. Simply. She holds up a bag from the restaurant they both like, the Italian place on West Pace's Ferry, the one they discovered together on a third date that somehow became theirs. "I figured you hadn't eaten." He has not, as it happens. "Hey," he says. She puts the food on the counter. She opens the wine. She brought a bottle. She always brings a bottle. She has tastes and she has never been apologetic about them. And she sets out plates with the comfortable efficiency of someone who has been in this kitchen many times, who knows where things are, who has a kind of domestic fluency here that has accumulated over 2 years of being with each other in the easy, reliable way that Marcus has, she now understands. Confused for safety. They sit at the kitchen island. They eat. They talk about their days in the broad, surface strokes of people who have a well-worn conversational groove. His week. Her client. A piece of news they both find interesting. It is almost convincing. It is almost the evening it would have been a month ago, before the gala, before the restaurant she wasn't meant to see, before Jordan's careful sentences in the wine bar on Crescent Avenue. Almost. Between the main course and the quiet that settles in its wake, that soft, domestic post-dinner quiet that is either contentment or the pause before the thing that changes everything, depending on the evening, Vanessa sets down her fork. She does it with no drama. She picks up her wine glass. She holds it. Then she sets it down too, and she looks at him. Not across the island, through it. The way Vanessa looks when she has already decided something and is only now allowing the other person to understand that a decision has been made. "Tell me about Dominique Carter," she says. Marcus goes very still. Not rigid. Not the tense, corded stillness of a man caught and preparing a defense. The deeper, more honest stillness of a man who has heard a name he has been carrying in silence for 2 years spoken aloud by someone who has every right to speak it, and who feels, in the arrival of that name in this space, the particular collapse of the partition between the life he has been living and the life that has been living alongside it without his permission. A person's stillness in the face of a name is its own kind of answer. A man who had nothing to say would reach for confusion. A man who had something to say, and something to be ashamed of, and something that is also true and will not be pretended away, that man goes still. He does not deny it. He does not perform confusion. He does not make the mistake of underestimating her, which she would not forgive and which would also, in any case, be insulting to them both. He sets his own fork down. He looks at her. He says, simply, the sentence that costs him the most of anything he has said today, of anything he has said all week. "What do you want to know?" This may be the bravest sentence he has spoken, not the one in the restaurant. That one was necessary and honest, but it was also spoken to someone he loves, which made it, despite its cost, possible. This sentence is spoken to someone he respects and has wronged in ways that are still becoming clear to him, and it contains no protection for himself, no framing, no exit. It is the verbal equivalent of opening a door he cannot close again. Vanessa looks at him for a long moment. The city moves in the glass behind him. The wine sits untouched. The food has gone slightly cold, in the way of food at tables where something more important than eating has arrived. She takes a slow breath, and she begins to ask her questions. Chapter 10. The text that changes everything. Late night. Dominique in bed, reading. Her phone lights up. By 10:30, she is in bed with a novel, the kind that asks something of you, that requires attention rather than merely absorbing it, and she is giving it attention in the deliberate, disciplined way she gives attention to things she has chosen to focus on. The apartment is quiet. The lamp on her nightstand is warm. Her phone is on the nightstand, face down, where it has been since 8 o'clock, and she has not checked it, which is a form of restraint she has had to renew every 40 minutes or so since she sent the message this morning. She decides, doing well. She is reading. She is here, in her body, in her quiet apartment, in a life that is good and real and fully hers. She turns a page. The phone lights up. She does not move for a moment. Then she picks it up, because that is what you do, because the reflex of checking is older than the decision to set it face down. She looks at the screen. The number is not in her contacts. The area code is Atlanta, but no name populates above the message preview, which means this is a number she has never saved, which means it is either a wrong number or something she has not yet categorized. She opens it. For words. That is all. For words, and a name, and no context, and no signature. Ask him about Vanessa. Dominique is a woman who has spent her career in the business of language, of precision, of what words mean when they are arranged in specific ways, of what they are designed to do. She reads the message twice. She does not misunderstand it. She understands it completely, which is exactly the problem, which is exactly what causes the particular sensation that moves through her body now. Not panic, because Dominique Carter does not panic. It is not a gear she has, but a cold, clear, descending clarity. The kind that arrives when your instincts, which have been raising their hand in the back of the room for a week, have finally been called on. She has always known, on some level, that there was more to the shape of Marcus's life than he had offered her. Not because he lied. She doesn't think he lied, technically, but because the shape of a person's silences is its own kind of information, and Marcus's silences on certain subjects have always been precisely shaped. She noticed. She chose, some weeks ago, to proceed without requiring him to fill them. She can see, now, that this was a choice with consequences she did not fully account for. She screenshots the message. She does this automatically, with the efficiency of a woman who knows that evidence requires preservation. Then she sets the phone face down on the nightstand. She picks up her book. She reads the same sentence 11 times. She knows she is reading it 11 times. She counts, because counting is something she can do with the part of her brain that is not currently occupied with the cold, clear, descending question of what she does not know, and how long she has not known it, and who, behind an anonymous Atlanta number, has decided that tonight is the night she should. She does not call the number. She does not text back. She does not call Celeste, though Celeste would answer on the first ring, always on the first ring. She lies in the lamp-warm quiet of her own apartment and holds the fact of 4 words and a name in her chest, and she breathes through it, and she waits for morning, because morning is when she makes decisions, and right now it is the middle of the night, and the middle of the night is not a place for decisions. It is only a place for understanding, finally, clearly, what the question is. Chapter 11. Atlanta at midnight. The city weighs in. The city. Everywhere and nowhere. Midnight in June. Atlanta at midnight in June does not sleep. It hums. It glows at its towers and breathes at its streets and sends its music and its laughter and its traffic and its night air. Jasmine. Exhaust. Someone's cologne drifting past a bar entrance. The particular sweetness of southern midnight that you cannot explain to someone who has not stood inside it. Outward in all directions, indifferent and magnificent. The city continuing its gorgeous, uninterrupted life regardless of who inside it is breaking and who is being told the truth and who is lying. In the dark with an anonymous message and a question that will not wait much longer for an answer. Somewhere in this city, Marcus Sutton is telling Vanessa Pierce the truth, or something close enough to the truth that the gap between them is only a matter of courage and time. He is sitting at a kitchen island in a penthouse above the city and trying, possibly for the second time this week, and the first time in years, to be a man whose words and interior life are the same thing. He deserves the dignity of honesty and the consequences that come with it. Somewhere in this city, Dominique Carter is lying in bed in her good, quiet apartment reading the same sentence 11 times, and a screenshot is sitting on her phone, and she is deciding, not consciously, not yet, but in the deeper registers where decisions are actually made, what kind of woman she will be in the morning. Whatever she chooses, she will choose with full awareness. Dominique does not do anything by accident. Even the things that look like accidents are the result of deliberate interior work she has chosen not to show the outside world. Somewhere in this city, Celeste Bradshaw is awake. She is always awake at the hinge moments of the people she loves, some combination of instinct and loyalty, and the particular hypervigilance of someone who learned young that paying attention is how you protect the things that matter. She is probably reading. She is probably thinking about Dominique. She will not call until morning, because she understands the sanctity of the dark hours, and because Dominique needs to have the night without her, and because love, properly done, means knowing when to hold back. And somewhere in this city, in an apartment or an office or a car still parked on a midtown street, someone with an anonymous number and knowledge of the full shape of this situation is watching to see what the morning brings. Whoever it is will become clear. Secrets in this city do not remain anonymous forever. They cannot afford to. They require witness, eventually. They require someone to know them. This is the thing about Atlanta, and about cities like it, cities with memory, cities where the past and the present share the same air, cities where you can have been gone for 2 years and return to find that nothing has actually moved on, only rearranged itself into a temporary patience. Secrets do not die here. They shed their skin. They come back in different forms, wearing different names, arriving through different doors, an anonymous text, a wine bar conversation, a single honest sentence at a table in a restaurant on a Wednesday night. They circle back. They always circle back. The question has never been whether the truth will surface. Any city with this much heat and history and human wanting already knows. The truth surfaces. It is the nature of truth. It rises, the way everything rises in heat, inevitably, and sometimes violently, and always at the worst possible time for the people involved. The question, the only question, the one this episode has been turning over since the first sentence, is whether the people it belongs to will still be standing when it does. Whether Marcus has enough integrity to hold what honesty requires of him. Whether Dominique has enough trust remaining, in herself if not in him, to do something she has never permitted herself, want something and reach for it at the same time, without requiring the outcome to be guaranteed before she extends her hand. Whether Vanessa, who deserves more than compensation and has known this for some time, without permitting herself to say so, will choose herself in the way that is both necessary and devastating. The city does not answer these questions. The city hums and glows and breathes and continues, the way cities do, the way time does, forward, only ever forward, without interest in whether the people inside it are ready. Midnight becomes 12:01, becomes 1, becomes the particular silence of 2 in the morning when even the city is as close to quiet as it gets. The towers lit, but still, the streets half empty, the warm air lying over everything like a held breath. In an apartment on the north side of the city, Dominique has finally fallen asleep, the book still open on the pillow beside her, the phone face down, the lamp off. In a penthouse above it all, a man and a woman are still at a kitchen island, talking, not fighting, not performing, talking, in the real and costly way of two people who have arrived at a moment that requires honesty from both of them, which is the hardest kind of arrival and the most necessary one. And outside, the city breathes. The jasmine and the asphalt. The warm, indifferent, magnificent June dark. Atlanta, doing what Atlanta does. Holding everything, judging nothing, waiting, as it has always waited, for the morning to come and tell us who we decided to be. If Atlanta has you hooked, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Episode 4 is coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.